Most creators pay hundreds of dollars for high quality motion graphics. But what I'm about to show you might just kill After Effects and will probably make a few video editors nervous. But I'll show you a way to generate unlimited pixel perfect motion graphics using code, AI, and Remotion. And the best part is you don't even need to know how to code. So here's some examples of motion graphics that I created, and this is a pie chart, as you can see. I will just make this full screen. It just looks amazing the way it animates. And as you can see, I can even change the data over here. So I can say, for example, if I want to change the position, I can basically do something like this, and you'll see this will change the position. So I don't have to keep regenerating these images and hope for the best, essentially. And it's not just graphs, and you can see I created this sort of radial text scroller. I can go ahead and I can even add more fields over here. So let's say if I wanted to add something else like video editor, right? And you'll see video editor in there. And this looks really nice. I mean, this is something that I could definitely use in a project right away. And I was able to generate this with just like one line of code. Another example is this animated tweet. Again, you can change all of the fields over here. You can change the display name, the username, the content of the tweet. And this is essentially how it looks. It looks pretty nice if you ask me. And then I also created this balance counter. I actually used this in one of my previous videos. And this has a transparent background, and you can see it just counts all the way up to $357,000. And I even created this full-on explainer on how a neural network works. And you can see it's completely animated. It gives an indication of what goes into the network and then what essentially comes out as an output. And this was literally done with just one prompt. And again, as you can see, I have full control over here of all of the props or the properties. And you can see these were all generated using code. So essentially all the text and data is editable, and it's simply pixel perfect. Like, look at that. As a creator myself, just starting out, I've personally paid about $200 for these similar charts that you see in the past. So today I will give you a complete step-by-step on how I installed Cursor, set up Remotion, and how you can make these amazing animations yourself. And one thing I want to address before we get started is because I see this a lot on YouTube, where videos suggest using image generators like Nano Banana Pro or Kling 2.6 to generate these graphs. And I've tried it myself, and you can see they are pretty bad. Like for this graph over here, I wanted to use a green screen background. It's completely off. Like I can't even use it. So, and you can also see like I've tried quite a few times. I've tried to generate these graphs at least half a dozen times, and none of them are actually usable. Now, this one that it's generated is kind of okay, but unfortunately you can't use videos like these or generations like this in a final production. And essentially what I'm doing here is I'm just giving it an input, and I'm just praying that I get a proper output, which shouldn't be the case, honestly. I also see a few other videos that mentioned Hera or Hera, and here are the results from Hera. While it is better than Nano Banana Pro, unfortunately, you can see if I'm trying to, say, for example, change any sort of data labels over here, it just completely goes whack. As you can see, that dot is over there, and I wanted it to be slightly up there. So again, these ones are good when they get it right, but then most of the time they don't get it right, and you're just like sort of stuck with a subpar graph. So instead today, what we will do is we'll take a look at my Miro board, and you will see I've got the complete instructions over here. So what we need to do is, number one, we need to download and install Node.js, because Remotion, you can't like just download Remotion. So Remotion has to be configured through the Node package manager. So that's what I'm going to show you today. And then we also need to download and install Cursor, and this is going to act as our AI IDE, where it will write us code for the Remotion video player. So first thing I'll do is I'll go and download and install Node.js. So since I'm on Windows, I'm going to go for the Windows installer, save that. Okay, so I'm just going to go next, accept all the terms. Okay, so now that is installed, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to download and install Cursor as well. So I'll go here again. I'm just going to download this for Windows. So I'm going to run this installation and let it finish. So now that's installed Cursor as well. Now next we need to go and set up the Remotion package. So if you go to the Remotion docs over here, you have a terminal command, and essentially if you are afraid of code or if you're afraid to like put any commands into your terminal, you can essentially use Cursor to do that for you. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to open Cursor. So the first time you open Cursor, it might look slightly different, but the way I have set up is that I have my AI chat right here on the right side, and you can select your agent. So my agent over here is what we're going to use. It's Opus 4.5. So I'm just going to give Cursor a voice command to install Remotion. I'm going to say, can you please set up Remotion on my E drive? And that's just going to start setting up Remotion. I'm going to allow. So now Opus 4.5 has just set up Remotion, and I even gave it like a very simple animated bar chart to make, but we're going to give it an actual example for it to go by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this PDF file here. I'm just going to take a simple screenshot here, and then I'll go to Cursor and then just paste that there. And then I'm going to give it a voice command. So I'm going to say, animate this graph and make the typography kinetic. Give me full prop control. Okay, so it's just finished creating that animated graph for us. So let's see what it looks like. And that's pretty good for a first try. Now, one thing I would want to change is maybe the graph is just all the way up on the y-axis. So maybe I'll try changing that a little bit. So as you can see, I can just change the chart offset over here, so that'll come down a bit, and I can just save that. So this is what you call as props, guys. So you want to have property control over here, so you can change all of these individual properties. So next thing, if I wanted to make the chart bigger, maybe I can do it based on the scale over here. So I'm just going to make it 2. Okay, maybe that's too big. Let's go back to 1.5 scale. And then I'm just going to offset the Y a little bit, and also offset the X a little bit. Okay, so there we go. I've just made a few corrections just within the property control over here, and that's pretty much how it looks. That's amazing. Okay, so on to our next example. So what we will look at next is an explainer video. So I'll come to Cursor over here and I'll just give it a simple voice command. So I'll say, can you make an explainer style video for teaching AI neural networks to a 10-year-old? Give me an animated diagram of an AI neural network, please. Okay, so that took about 30 seconds. Let's go and see what it's generated. And this is what it's made. Okay, so input goes in here, the hidden layers, and then the output. Yeah, that's pretty good. What I would do is I'd probably change these labels out a bit because I feel like it's too clustered. But other than that, you can see with just like one prompt, it's done such an amazing job. And as you can see, again, we have complete control. We can change the background color over here. We can change the color of those little circles and the lines and the pulse color, even the text as well, right? So yeah, I can go ahead and change this. I wouldn't even need to regenerate this over and over again like you do with other text generators. Okay, so moving on to our next example. We will try and do a dynamic counter. Now, this is where I actually do use Hera, and the reason I do that is because Hera does have quite a few templates. Now, one of the templates that I really liked was this dynamic counter. So what I'll do is I'll just simply screenshot this. So I'm going to go back to Cursor and give this as a reference image, and then I'll give it a voice prompt. So I can say something like, make a balance counter similar to the reference image attached. Make the counter go up to $357,000 and give me full control over all the properties. All right, so it's been about 10 seconds and it's just doing its little thing. So we're just going to wait for it. Now, normally you would have to write all of this code, but as you can see, I'm just sitting here clicking buttons and giving commands. That's about it. All right, so now that's done as well. Let's go take a look what it looks like. Balance counter. Now that looks pretty good, to be honest, right? But the one thing that I would change is probably the background. So I'd want like a transparent background. And let me show you, I'll give it a command. Make it a transparent background, please. You have to be polite with AI, you know? When they do take over the world, they might go easy on you. All right, so it's done a transparent background. Let's take a look. All right, that's amazing. So when you try to render something on Remotion with a transparent background, it sort of bugs out. So what I do is I just give the command directly to cursor to render it with a transparent background. So I'm going to do that now. Render this in a transparent background, please. So now that it's rendered it, this is what it looks like when you layer it with your video. Okay, let's go to our next example now. And the next example we're going to be looking at is an animated tweet. Now for this, I do like to go to this website called Jitter. Now Jitter, again, is quite expensive. I think it's about like $20 or something. Yeah, it's about $20 for this. But what I do like to do is I just like to get some inspiration off of here. Now this is the tweet that I do like. So what I can do is I'm just going to play this and I'm just going to, again, do a simple screenshot. Just paste that image in as a reference. So I'm going to give it a voice command. So I'm going to say, make an animated tweet similar to the attached reference image. Keep the background color the same. The tweet should have an appear animation with the white container appearing first, followed by the profile picture and then the rest of the elements. Give me prop control for all of the elements in the animation. So that's a long command, so that's why I'm using voice. Now look at our little mini, just coding away. I absolutely love this. Obviously he's hit a bit of a hitch, so I'm gonna accept. Okay, so now that's done. I'm just gonna go check out what it made. Animated tweet. So this is what it looks like, full screen. That's nice. That's really nice. So I can change the text of the tweet over here. So let's say this is an example. So let's save that as a property. And maybe I'll change the timestamp as well. Maybe let's make that to 2025. Save that as well. So as you can see, that's what it looks like now once it's all edited. And you can see all of this is simply from one prompt, right? I didn't even have to go and write multiple prompts, and it's doing a pretty good job. Okay, so now for the next example, we look at an animated subscribe button. And this is where you can really get sort of crafty. And I'll show you an example. So for this, I go to CodePen, and CodePen essentially is like this code repository for people who are in web development, right? So it'll give you the HTML and CSS codes. So say for example, I went to this animation here and you can see it's sort of like a rotate animation sort of. And this is usually used for websites, right? And that's where you have the HTML, CSS code over here, but you can use this for video as well. So you can just copy the HTML and CSS code, post it to cursor, and it will take that and it will change that into a video. So I was looking at other sort of designs on CodePen and I came across this YouTube subscribe button, and we all know, like, the creators are always paying money to get these little subscribe buttons and lower thirds and whatnot. So this is what happens. So there is a click state over here, and you can see like when you click on it, it sort of pops, and then there's like a bell icon or whatnot. Right, so let's try to recreate this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this HTML here. I'm going to go back to cursor. So I'll give it a voice command. I'll say, I want you to create an animated YouTube subscribe button. I will provide the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. There is a click state that animates after the button is clicked. Since we don't have a click state, what I want you to do is a hand pointer and then carry on the rest of the animation as per the CSS and JavaScript. Right, so once we have that prompt in, I'm going to give it the HTML. I'm also going to go here, I'm going to copy all of the CSS. Finally, I will also copy the JavaScript here. So I've just given it a big prompt over here. So make sure you use like voice commands if you're going to be giving these big prompts, because you don't want to be sitting there and typing this whole thing out. Okay, so it's done with that. Now let's see what it's actually produced. It's good, but it's kind of messed up the hand pointer. And this is where you have two options. So option one, you can obviously keep fighting with cursor, give it, or try to describe what a hand pointer is, and it might get it right. But the next option is the best, where I actually go and I look for hand pointer SVG. So SVG files are like vector files. And this is where I could go to a website like, say, for example, SVG repo. You can download these hand pointers for free. So this is my project folder in my E drive. And what I will do is I can go to public and just paste this hand pointer over here. So now I can come back to cursor and give it a voice command. Replace the hand pointer that I've put in the public folder and use that instead. Okay, so now that it's finished, let's go take a look at what it's done. Much better. This is much better. But I would still maybe like that hand pointer to be slightly big. Let's see if we have the property over here to change the size. Okay, so we do have a property here to change the cursor size. So I'll make it 60 most probably. And this is what it looks like after changing the cursor size. That looks really nice. I don't like the little chevron over here, so I might remove that, give it another command to remove that. But essentially, after I do a bit of cleaning up, maybe another prompt or so, this is what it will look like when you layer it with your video. And if you've been enjoying this video thus far, do actually subscribe. All right, so getting back to our example here, we'll go to the final example, which is an animated lower third. Go to this website, or you can go to like any sort of website that sells these animated lower thirds. So I found a design that I really like, so I can take a screenshot of this. So I'm just going to come back to cursor and give it a prompt. Build an animated lower third like the attached picture. The animation should start at the white line, so the white line should appear, and then the name should animate out of the white line. This is the future of coding, guys. Before, it used to be you writing all of this yourself, but now it's just me sitting here watching it write it for me. Okay, so it's done with that. Let's go take a look. That's pretty good, actually. Let me change the name to Sid and title to YouTuber. All right, and that's what it looks like. I can even go ahead and change the title color if I wanted to, make it more like specific to my brand. But this is essentially what it looks like when you use it in your videos. All right, guys, so those are just a few use cases for Remotion using AI. Honestly, you're only limited by your imagination on what you could potentially create. And you can create motion graphics for literally anything you can think of. Before this, you had to pay for these After Effects templates, and it took you forever to actually configure them to the way you wanted it. Or you had to pay a lot of money to a motion designer and then wait a day or two just to see the results. If you found this video helpful and you want to see more of these types of videos on how to build these AI systems for free, then drop a like and subscribe to the channel. But until then, have a good day.